The acceptance letter from MIT was sitting on the kitchen counter on a Tuesday morning when my father walked in, read the first 3 lines, struck a match from the box by the stove, and dropped the burning paper into my mother's ceramic mixing bowl. "You won't be needing this," he said, with the same tone people use to announce dinner is ready. I stood there watching $280,000 worth of scholarship curl into ash while my brother Derek slurped orange juice on the other side of the kitchen like nothing was happening, because for him, nothing was. My mother slid a folder across the counter without making eye contact. Inside were enrollment forms for Northern Virginia Community College, already filled out in her handwriting with my name at the top. The forms being pre-filled told me everything about whether this was a conversation or a conclusion. 2 weeks later, at Sunday dinner at my grandmother's house in Falls Church, Derek announced he was dropping out of James Madison University to start a business, and my parents exchanged the proud look of people whose plan was proceeding on schedule. "We are giving him $15,000 to get started," my father said. "An investment in his future." The word investment landed in my chest, like something swallowed wrong. "You burned my MIT letter, but you are funding his dropout," I said, sharper than I planned. "Girls don't stick with engineering," my mother said quickly. She would have wasted it. Derek leaned back with the satisfaction of someone reciting wisdom. "Besides, someone needs to stay home and take care of them when they're older. That's what daughters do." I pulled out my phone and showed the table the screenshot I had taken the afternoon the letter arrived, before anyone else came home. The complete acceptance package, scholarship details, everything, photographed with the specific understanding that the physical document might not survive the week. Uncle Robert squinted at the screen. "You turned down a full ride to MIT for community college? That doesn't make sense. There is something you don't know about that scholarship money," I said. "And Grandma, there is something about my college fund you should probably hear." Then I told them the timeline of how I became the family's retirement plan. At 14, I started tutoring neighborhood kids for $20 an hour. My mother immediately established that half went into what she called my college fund. At 16, I got a job at the bookstore on Route 7 earning $15 an hour, and my parents took 60% for household contributions. That summer, Derek totaled his car and the repair came out of my savings. I applied to an engineering summer camp at Virginia Tech, and they said no, because Derek needed SAT prep and I was the logical person to provide it. At 17, I was valedictorian candidate and National Merit Scholar while working 20 hours a week, and when Derek failed 2 classes, I was pulled from debate team to tutor him. Their logic was that I was naturally capable, so my opportunities were flexible in ways his were not. I kept every payment stub, every receipt, every forced redirection documented in a system I built at 15 because I understood before I had words for it that the record of what was done to you is the only protection available when the people doing it control the narrative. Senior year, I applied to engineering programs using fee waivers and had correspondence sent to my school counselor's office because I already knew my mail at home was not reliably private. The MIT acceptance arrived on a Tuesday when everyone was out, and I photographed it immediately. That night, I heard my father through my bedroom wall saying we cannot let her get too independent. She needs to stay close to take care of us later. And I lay in bed, understanding that the life they had designed for me had nothing to do with my capabilities and everything to do with what they needed from me going forward. The months after losing MIT were systematic. Community college general studies while Derek lived at JMU on my parents' money. $300 a month rent for the bedroom I had slept in since age 7, double shifts at Tony's Diner in Herndon just to afford textbooks, my engineering books donated to make room for Derek's gaming setup, my desk converted into his second monitor station. One evening, I was serving a family celebrating their daughter's Georgia Tech engineering acceptance, and when they asked what I was studying, I said general studies, and went to the bathroom and cried with the practiced silence of someone who has learned to cry without making sound. That is where Patricia found me. My manager at Tony's, early 50s, knocked on the bathroom door and said, "Honey, I have paper towels in 15 minutes. I came out and told her everything. She listened without the expression people use when they are waiting for it to not be as bad as it sounds, and then she said I graduated from UVA Darden 22 years ago, and my parents did the same thing, told me I wasn't management material, pushed me toward nursing, and I worked nights for 9 years, and enrolled at 31, and now I own this restaurant and 2 others in Loudoun County." Patricia's office became my war room. She connected me with her attorney, David Okafor, in Alexandria, who handled family financial fraud cases. The discovery that changed everything happened while I was cleaning the attic. Behind Christmas decoration boxes, I found a manila envelope in my grandfather's handwriting, with my name on it. Inside were bank documents for an education savings account he had established before he died. The balance was $45,000. The withdrawal records showed $8,000 removed over 2 years, signed with my name in my mother's handwriting. I was not 18 until the following month. I had never had legal authority to access that account. David reviewed the documents and said this is felony fraud, and asked what my goal was. I want my education, I said, and I want them to understand that consequences are specific and measurable. He said we have 3 options: criminal charges, civil suit, or strategic pressure. And I asked which one also produced the most spectacular success they could never take credit for or control. The trust fund legally transferred to my sole control at 19, 1 month away. My parents had no idea I had found the envelope. I had the specific advantage of someone who knows things that other people believe are safely hidden, and I decided to use it at exactly the right moment. My MIT appeal, rebuilt with David's documentation of financial independence, and the fraud evidence, and Patricia's professional support letter, came back approved 3 weeks later. Full scholarship, research stipend, guaranteed co-op placement. I was in the Tony's storage room taking inventory when the call came, and I sat down on a case of ketchup bottles and cried with my whole face for the first time in 2 years. I planned the reveal for Sunday dinner at my grandmother's house in Falls Church. Same room, same table, same relatives who had nodded sympathetically when my parents explained that community college was a better match for my abilities. I stood at the head of the table after the dishes were cleared, and thanked my parents for everything they taught me about planning and making strategic investments in the future. And they exchanged the look of people anticipating public vindication. Then I told the table about my MIT engineering acceptance. The silence was the kind that contains a room full of people revising the story they thought they were in. I thought you were at community college, my grandmother said. I was, I said. Turns out my capabilities were somewhat different from how they had been characterized. I set my grandfather's savings account statements on the table. $45,000, established for me, managed without my knowledge. Then I slid the withdrawal slips across. David said quietly from his seat that the signatures were particularly interesting from a legal perspective. Uncle Robert picked one up and studied it under the dining room light. Mom has been signing my name to access the interest, I said. $8,000 redirected to Derek's expenses. My grandmother said that is fraud. I said yes, but I am not primarily here about the financial management. I pulled out the document I had prepared with David, a payment agreement structured around proportional accountability, and set it in front of my parents. I would like to invest in your retirement the same way you invested in mine. Same percentage you took from my bookstore wages all those years, plus compound interest at current rates. Consistent methodology. Derek said this is ridiculous manipulation. I turned to him and said, I thought it was family planning. Isn't that what it was called when the plan was that I should sacrifice for your benefit and your failed business ventures? Uncle Robert looked at Derek directly and asked what exactly Derek was contributing to the family retirement structure. The table's silence answered that with considerable precision. I pulled out the MIT scholarship letter and placed it next to the withdrawal slips and the payment agreement, and said, scholarship committees are remarkably generous when you can demonstrate sustained excellence without family support. I stood slowly and said, I will graduate debt-free with job offers and no professional obligation to anyone who did not believe in my potential. Then I sat back down and picked up my fork. Congratulations, I said. You raised exactly the daughter you deserved, just not the one you wanted. 5 years later, I am a senior aerospace engineer, earning $140,000 annually. Married to Marcus, a structural engineer I met in advanced thermodynamics at MIT, who read my capstone research paper before we were introduced and thought the methodology was elegant, which is the correct foundation for a life together. We own a townhouse in Reston. The mortgage is in my name. Derek found stable employment in commercial property management at 28, motivated partly by watching his younger sister achieve a professional standing that made certain comparisons unavoidable. My parents attend our family gatherings and accept praise from relatives about what a remarkable daughter they raised, with the expression of people receiving something they are uncertain they have fully earned. The monthly retirement contributions arrive in their mailbox on schedule. $183, calculated using the exact percentage formula they applied to my earnings from age 16 through 18. Adjusted for current income and financial obligations, representing a 15% annual return on their documented investment in my potential. Not more. Not less. Precisely the number the formula produces. People ask why I send anything at all. The answer is that I am not cruel, and I do not want them destitute. But I believe in accountability that is specific and delivered consistently over time rather than once dramatically. Because drama fades and mathematics does not. Those checks are calculated using the 60% household contribution rate applied proportionally to my current income, the opportunity cost of the engineering camp, and the debate team. The compound effect of $8,000 redirected from my grandfather's trust, all of it entered into the formula with complete accuracy and no rounding in the favorable direction. They wanted a daughter who put family first and sacrificed her potential for their security. They got exactly that. I just defined my future family as the one I built with Marcus, and I am providing for their security at precisely the rate of return that corresponds to the faith they demonstrated in my potential when it was being formed. It is not revenge. Revenge implies emotional investment in the outcome. I have only mathematical commitment to the accuracy of the number. And the difference between those two things is the difference between something that costs you and something that simply describes a reality with precision. They taught me to be exact about value and return, and the long-term cost of short-term decisions. I learned that lesson more thoroughly than they ever imagined possible. The math does not lie. Neither do I.